Hello there, sweet friends. This is Gina. Welcome to the TheReBookery channel. Today I am going to do a flip through of this old composition notebook journal that I have from 2014-2015. I'm going to do it for a couple of reasons. One, I have been posting pictures that I've taken from some journal spreads in here on Instagram, and you guys have had such a great response that I thought I would do a flip through. And two, this is going to be a great segue into a really exciting, or at least I'm excited, a really exciting announcement that I'm going to make at the end of this video. So let me talk to you a little bit about this journal, and I'm going to try to limit what I say about each page. Otherwise, I feel like we could be here for days. So I'm going to try to limit myself and just talk about when I flip the page, what stands out, and give you a few minutes to, or a few seconds to look over the page, and then I'll flip to the next page. So this is a composition notebook. I think I got it at Walmart. As a teacher, I have a lot of composition notebooks. I will say this, I'm not promoting Walmart, but not all composition books are created equal. I bought a composition notebook last fall to do some planning for school in, and it fell apart. I mean, literally just disintegrated in my hands. I was so upset because I had done a lot of writing in there, and I had to take the pages and rip them out and then put them, actually they fell out, and then put them in a better quality composition notebook. So not all composition notebooks are created equal. If you are going to do journaling in a composition notebook, you're going to want to make sure you get one of a higher quality. So what I did on this one was I just took some old wallpaper that I had found at an estate sale or a thrift shop, and I covered it with that. This is a piece of some of my old artwork, and this is kind of important because this actually is part of the announcement that I'm going to make at the end of this video. On the front, again, I just used some of my old artwork, some random stickers. This was a name tag from a workshop I had gone to, and then a price tag. So this journal is really important because this shows a part in my journey, my creative journey, my journey of me figuring out who I am as an artist. And this did a great job of that because it actually showed where I started to combine my planning and my memory keeping, and even a little bit of scrapbooking. So I really have fond thoughts and memories about this journal. So in this journal, I decided I needed a planner, and it was the middle of the month of April, and I thought, okay, why not? I'm just going to start right here. So I actually started on April 20th. Yeah, and I know people in the planner world that might freak you out, but for me, does not bother me. Time is time. Time never stops. Time's always moving on. I don't need to start at the beginning of the month. I don't need to start at the beginning of the year. I just start whenever I need to plan. And so I needed to plan around the 20th of April 2014, and so that's where I started. I just used sticky notes, and I just basically, this was just very, very basic I just wrote down some quotes of things that had been happening. I wrote down appointments and track meets and soccer games and meetings and things like that. So this was just like the beginnings, and you can see I started to do a little bit of artwork, and that was kind of the beginning of me dipping my feet in the water and just testing it out and seeing, could I actually combine planning and junk journaling? Could I combine the whole thing together? So this was just kind of the beginnings of that. This was just a page of some memories that I had during this time period. These were some photos of my kiddos that I had taken. This was a clipping that I pulled out of a newspaper. I wrote down some poems. I practiced some artwork. Wrote down some things that my kids said. I kept notes from my kids. Just kind of added just bits of random things. I mean, like, I just wrote words that just really don't have any meaning. And then I would write things and then I would go and cover it. So I think I've told you guys a couple of times that whenever I journal like this, my favorite way of doing this is just like coming home from school, sitting on the couch watching TV, and I just start doodling and journaling. I may have a bag of old papers with me and I just will cut them up or tear them up and glue them on here. I may just have some pens. And that's my favorite way of journaling. So you're going to see a lot of randomness in here. There's going to be quotes, there's going to be dates, there's going to be lists, there's going to be notes, there's going to be just drawings, there's going to be just random things that I get in the mail, and they may not mean anything to anyone else, but I can look at every single thing and I can pull some sort of meaning from it. And ultimately, guys, in the end, the only person that this really matters to is you. So I'm okay with that. So these are some notes that I got from some students. This was an appointment card that I had, just some random drawings, some lists. A lot of times I will write down things that are going on in my classroom at that time, or I'll write down songs that are going through my head. If I have some random photos, like this is a really goofy photo of me, I just stick that in. It doesn't really have any meaning, it's just there. Pictures that I like from books, practicing on my art skills, again, song lyrics. And so then this is my first full calendar spread. So this was May, and what I did was I just used some grid paper and I made it very grid-like. Now you can see it's pretty structured. My squares are pretty much the same size. Totally not the way I do it now. If you've seen me, I just take a marker and I go like this. And I wrote a lot of stuff in. So every time we would do something, I would write that in. This was my way of memory keeping. And I would add in things like when I colored my hair, and little sticky notes, just some random drawings. And then once the month was over, I kind of went back and I started to draw over top of all my planning. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. So you can kind of see this is where I really first started with that. Here's some clothing tags that I thought were kind of cool. Just random thoughts, envelopes. This is a pocket with some letters from my students. Again, more clothing tags. I'm going to use that later. And so stick those back in. Just some doodling. This was some wrapping paper that didn't quite make it through the die cut machine, so I just stuck it in there. Things that my kids leave me, like they'll leave me notes because I'm asleep way before they are. And I think at this time, all three of my kids were living at home. So I would wake up in the morning and there'd be all kinds of notes about things that had gone wrong or things that they needed, or, you know. So I'll stick those notes in. I was doing a lot of selfies at that point. I don't know why. And so there's some selfies in here, some hand cut letters. And then this is my June. And you can really see how I started to do all of this artwork over top of my month. And I was really kind of loving it. And I was feeling more and more comfortable with it. And then here's July, and this is the month where this is the month where it all came together. I felt like this month was the one where it clicked for me, and I could figure out how to match memory keeping, planning, and journaling my artwork all in one spread. So this is the one, this is the month where it clicked for me, and it has a lot of special meaning. So it started with me just planning what I was going to do this month, and you can see I actually used grid paper. So I put the grid paper down first, and then I wrote in all my appointments and things like that. And then as the days went on, I would write down if we did something or something I wanted to remember, or a list or anything like that. And then I just started doodling. At first I used colored pencils, because I wanted to still be able to see what was underneath. But if you have looked at my junk planners here lately, I don't do that anymore. I'm okay with just covering up whatever's there with a sticker or paint or another piece of paper. I'm not scared of losing whatever's behind it. And so a person would look at this and they would see the art. If they really wanted to know what was going on in this page, they would linger and they would be able to read, which that would be me. I'd be able to go back and I could read what was going on, and I could see all of my memories and things that I did that month. So this is where it clicked for me, and this was really special. This is my August. August is not my favorite month. I love my job and I love my students, but man, August sucks. So this was just, August is always full, especially when my son played soccer. It was just a really full month, and just a lot of crazy things going on. So you can see there's not a lot of artwork here. I probably chose to do my artwork somewhere else in the journal. This I posted on Instagram, and again, it is just background writing, background papers, and then just kind of layered things on top. As I was sitting there, this might have taken me 3 or 4 days, and I would just keep layering and gluing things. I wrote some stuff and then I just covered over it because evidently I didn't need what I had written down. I got it out, or it served its purpose, and I was able to cover it up and move on. This was a note from a fellow teacher. This was just something out of the newspaper about the moon. This was a picture of my son and my daughter, some price tags, again, just random, maybe, excuse me, maybe quotes or things that are going through my head, sayings that maybe I've heard and I just can't get them out of my head. Here are just some little journal notes that I've tucked into this envelope. And I think at this time, excuse me, I think at this time I had bought a Flow magazine for paper lovers, and but it was an actual book, and it was at Barnes and Noble, and it was like discounted. I think somebody had bought it and returned it because they didn't want it, which I don't know why anybody would not want it, but I bought it, and so a lot of the papers you're going to see in this came from that book. That was the one and only time I had gotten one of those Flow books for paper lovers, and it was just so cool, and so I loved using it. Trying out some pencils, book titles. This is my October. Again, I did grid paper, some selfies if I printed photos. This is a little sticker. Oh yeah, World Series was going on. Oh my God, this was such a good month. Such a good month. And had a lot of stuff going on that month. These were some other clothing tags that I just felt like this was fabric, and I was like, I gotta keep that. Song titles, doodles. This is just probably a piece of packaging because it feels kind of like cardstock, and I just taped it in and just did some drawing and doodling and painting over top of it. Thoughts that I have in my head that are crazy. Love this color combination. So a lot of times I'll use a color combination in my journal, and I'll be like, that's awesome. I want to make a journal that has these same colors. So a lot of times I'll go back and I'll look at this for inspiration. I love when my kiddos leave me notes, and this is a note from my daughter whose sense of humor is amazing and she just has this weird sense of humor, and so this was a note that she had written me about how she couldn't run the dishwasher, and I took a picture of it and I kept it because it was so freaking cute, and she was like 22 years old at this time, so it actually wasn't cute, it was sad that she didn't know how to run the dishwasher. This was something that my youngest had done. We had to go and do a project at a grocery store for a health class. And as most 14, 15-year-olds are, they're very goofy. And so for whatever reason, he and his friends were going around saying, "Save Ferris," probably because they had just watched Ferris Bueller for the first time. I don't know. So as we were going through the store, he would write "Save Ferris" on like cereal boxes and stuff, which I'm sure you were not supposed to do. So I thought that was kind of funny. A song that my daughter would sing when she would get ready for lunch. This is just from an advertisement, like from an old magazine. And then these are just some notes about some tea that I had recently drank, and it was awesome, and some wrapping paper. Here is my November, and I like how I just used this was an actual calendar. So this was a calendar page, probably from a calendar that I'd gotten at school, and it fit perfectly, so I just glued it in. So again, my junk journals now, my planners don't have a page. I like just journal or do my planner right there on the bare page, but back here I was just starting, and so I would put a calendar or some grid paper on here. So a lot of writing on this one, not a lot of artwork, but November is a really busy month. Picture of my husband and I, selfies. Lots of times I'll be watching science shows, and so I always want to write down things that stick in my head, things that I want to go back to school and talk to my kids about. And so a lot of times I'll even take my journal to school and I'll say like, "Okay guys, yesterday I heard Stephen Hawking say this, blah, 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 blah. What do you think?" So yeah, there's some things like that. Another advertisement from a old magazine. This right here, I don't know if you can see this or not, but this was an old lesson plan, like one of my very first lesson plans that I had ever made. I flipped it upside down. I must have gotten this out of my file cabinets at school, but it was a lesson plan on seeds and germinating, and I glued it in because I thought it was kind of cool, because I remember that lesson plan and I remember making that, and I just it's so sentimental to me, that lesson plan, and so I wanted to include it. And I think I have it in the journal somewhere else too. This is December, and you can see where I'm again going back and putting the artwork over top of it. Writing down things like excuse me, Mythbusters, because I love Mythbusters marathon during the holidays. This is one where I felt like a middle schooler, because I was just going through and like writing down initials and names. And you remember when you used to do that back in junior high or middle school, where you would just write down, especially if you had a boyfriend or something, you would write your name with his last name. And so yeah, I was just doing that. A little bit of a list, some wrapping paper, receipts. January. So January was all sticky notes, and so under the sticky notes I have some little notes written, and that was a cool little technique that I liked, because it gave me a little extra journaling space. And yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. I don't know if you can tell this or not, but there's these circles, and I had sprayed some sort of an ink. It was like an iridescent ink, and so I don't know if you can tell. It's kind of shiny, but it's very, very faint. And I had sprayed it through a stencil, and the stencils were circles, and so it kind of looked like moons. And so what I did was then I went back and I would put journaling around the circles, so it was kind of cool. So there's like journaling, and then hidden journaling, and then circular journaling, and yeah. This is some tags from a little coffee shop we went to, and then a purse that I bought. A little card here that was backed with some vintage wrapping paper, and then a photo booth shot of my husband and I. This was probably during, gosh, my hair was long then. It was probably during spring break, so I don't go in order. I mean, my months will go in order, but my journaling definitely does not. So there may be stuff from November all the way back over here. Actually, this is November, so that's kind of ironic that I would flip to that page. But just some stickers, just some writing, some appointments, some things my kiddos say. we were calling my daughter Foxy at that time. So this is just some notes about my kiddo down at college, and these were directions on how to get to his dorm, because every time I would drive down there, I would get lost on the streets, and so I just would write down Chestnut to Benton to Bear, and I even took this with me because I am directionally challenged. Just some weird random things, like I was doing these little drawings here, and there's a list. This is some wrapping paper. Paper dolls. Love paper dolls. And I don't know, this is kind of a cool little, everything matches. It looks like I made everything match. And so while some things are random in here, some things I actually made match. So I think I probably started off with these guys right here. And then I added this cool little paper that came out of that Flow magazine. I probably found these guys in, oh gosh, it looks like these are newer, so probably out of a magazine or something that came in the mail. And I liked the colors, so I added it. This is something that my daughter always says when she doesn't like what we're saying to her. She always says, well, good day to you. And then just house shoes. I love house shoes. My grandma used to wear house shoes all the time, or house slippers. This is February. Oh, my son got his braces off. Again, I have some little flips and flaps here. And yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that. It gives me a little extra journaling space. These are some crazy little stickers that you get from Trader Joe's, which is a grocery store. And I'm always asking them for their stickers, which they're probably like, dude, the stickers are for kids, not adults. This was like a pamphlet or a brochure from one of my favorite art galleries in Kansas City. It's not the Nelson Atkins Art Gallery. This is the Kemper, and this is the outside of it with this amazing statue. And so this is one of those journaling spreads where there are lots of layers. So the first thing is, this was done in November, and I had a lot on my mind. I had to vent. So I just took this paper and I vented, and I vented, and I vented, and I vented this way, and this way, and this way, and this way, and I used different markers and pencils and crayons and blah, 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 blah. And once I got it all out, I was like, okay, I don't want that sitting in my journal. I want to flip to this page and see light, love, and happiness. So then I go back over it and I add more layers. And so that's where this came from, because we actually went to this art museum. We go quite a bit, but I think we went over Thanksgiving break. So put that in, added these little flaps, did some art journaling, and unless you really look at this, you wouldn't know that this was me on a tirade, because I made it pretty and I hid all of that ugly stuff that I needed to get out. This is, gosh, what are we up to? Is this March? Maybe? Okay, so on this one, again, this is some packaging that I just put some washi tape in, gave me some little extra journaling space, just a lot of doodling here. A lot of doodling. This is probably just very mindless. I'm sitting in front of the TV, very mindless. This is a little pamphlet that came from my favorite chocolate store in Kansas City, and I marked my favorite chocolates. This is Christopher Elbow chocolates. I only go there about once or twice a year. I could go every day, but every time I go, they always give you one of these little booklets, and I just don't want to throw them away, so I always keep them. So you'll see a lot of these booklets in my journals. Lots of things going on this month. And I found these little cloud stickers, and so I started putting those in. And like if we would have, I probably made cupcakes that day, or we had cupcakes, so I put that little sticker in. Oh, we went to see the Breakfast Club. It was the 30th anniversary. And so my husband and I had a date night. We went and saw that, which was kind of interesting because we don't do that in the middle of the week. A note from my son. This one's kind of cool because it is just so random, so out there. Nothing on here goes together. Everything is just totally, you know, isolated. Whereas this, they kind of went together. This is just not that way. So, things that were going on with my son, notes, my feelings, things that were going on in my head, song lyrics. Like this one, it says it's beginning to look a lot like, and instead of Christmas, I put Valentine's Day because I love Valentine's Day. Magazines, from old magazines, little advertisements, doodling, stickers. I love this little thing right here. She was always collecting tiny pieces of evidence. That is awesome, because that's kind of what this journal is about. I mean, that's kind of what journaling is about. The way we do it is we are always collecting tiny pieces of evidence. Evidence of what we've done, evidence of what we've learned, evidence of how we felt, evidence of what we were dreaming of. And yeah, that's kind of cool. I love that saying. That's awesome. I didn't realize I had written that. Another one where it's just totally random. Everything is just very, very spread out and all over the place. Some stuff I had gotten at Aldi. A quote from my daughter. Just some words that I had had in my head. Me trying to draw eyes. A list of things. Some handmade stamps that I had tried. These were some little like sticky notes that I had got at Dollar Tree, and I just thought they were cute, so I just glued them down the side. And then this is kind of cool. This is a little mason jar, and I just glued it in there, so that's kind of cute how it sticks out. So my son and I love Seinfeld, and this is a quote that he had said to me when he came home one day from college. He was like, I just feel like this is going to be the summer of George. And so I had to write that down because that was kind of cool. These pretzels are making me thirsty. Again, another quote from Seinfeld. So my son and I love Seinfeld, and we can relate a lot of Seinfeld to our everyday life. This is a recipe that I found in the newspaper, and I was like, oh, I want to make that. So I tucked it in there. Some stickers from some stores that we had gone to, some mail, some drawings. I was trying to replicate that. This is my April, and if you notice, it's heavy here and light here. And that was because this was kind of a significant time period. This was when I started TheReBookery. And I remember we were coming back from visiting my son at college, and I'd gone to yet another thrift store, and I had a bundle of stuff in my hands, and I remember my husband saying for like the millionth time, what are you going to do with all that stuff? And I was like, you know, I could open an Etsy shop. And so we planned the whole way back from visiting my son. We made a plan. And yeah, and I was scared to death. I remember I was just so scared. I don't know what I was scared of, but I was just so scared. And so, yeah, that was pretty awesome. So this is when it began. And then down here it says TheReBookery has taken over my life. So yeah, I kind of fell off on my journaling during that month because I was just so involved with getting the TheReBookery going. This is another one where everything is random, but yet it kind of all ties together, like the pink with the pink, and then the neon orange, and then this postcard, just kind of that time period, and the image really kind of goes with this doily packaging over here. Yeah, and I've got a lot of quotes here. This one is just a realization that I had, and I needed to get this written down. And sometimes when we journal, we get validation by writing something down, something that's in our heads that we're like, I know this is true. I know this is what I believe. And saying it to someone doesn't necessarily give you that validation. But when you write it down, man, it's there. It's I've written it down. It's a statement. I've got my validation. So this was some validation. I want to put memories into those books, not just paper. And the reason why this is so significant to me was because at this time I was still on the struggle bus of scrapbook versus journal. And I couldn't wrap my brain around why scrapbooking was so heavy on the commercial supplies and not, for me, it was not giving me enough individuality. It was not giving me enough of my own creativity. I felt like whenever I scrapbooked, it would look like everybody else's. And that wasn't what I wanted. That wasn't what I was seeking. And if I'm getting too deep, that's okay. But for some of you guys, you identify with that. You know what I'm saying, and you're searching and you're searching, and you can't find what's that creative outlet that I need where I can make this mine. Still plan, still journal, still be creative, and still cultivate my artistic abilities. And it was finally when I came to this realization where I was like, you know what? I don't want my spread to be about the paper. I don't care about the paper. 10,000 other people have that paper. I want it to be about me, my memories, my stories, my abilities, my skills, my journey. That's what I want it to be about. So writing this down, that was huge for me. And once I wrote it down, I did not look back. I moved on. I took from here, I just went on and followed journaling, and junk journaling, and making myself into an artist. And yeah, that's huge, because back at this time, I would have never called myself an artist. I would have never said that I was an artist. I would have said I was a pretender. And now I can say I am an artist. And so yeah, so actually I'm getting into what I want to tell you at the end of the video. So let me just keep going. Okay, so yeah, yeah. And then here's May. So I was kind of back on the journaling again, but May is another busy month, so it wasn't a lot. This was me watching some science shows and just writing down a ton of stuff. Another one of my original lesson plans in the background. So if I really look, I can see, and that just makes me so happy. This was just a sticker I found in an estate sale, and I just stuck it on there. I love that quote. And then this was a brochure, or like a card, that came from a new restaurant that we tried. And I don't know why I put this on here, but it says, "Do you know where this has been?" And I don't know what I'm talking about here. I don't know where. Maybe it was the doily? Something on here I had picked up off the street in Kansas City, which is not something you want to do all the time, but for whatever reason, I put this on here. Do you know where this has been? This is to represent the moon. Here's some more Trader Joe's stickers. Notes from some students. This is a security envelope. I just made a circle. Again, this is a page from that Flow magazine for paper lovers, and while I put it down here, and I just went on a tirade about I don't want it to be about the paper, it was the quote, and then I went and put my own artwork over top of it, which made it a little less about the paper. I was practicing some really chalky watercolors here, so it must have been some cheaper type of watercolors, but you can tell it's really chalky, which is good because this is a place to practice. A list of some stuff I needed to get at the grocery store. Life is too short for cheap sunglasses, cheap chocolate, and cheap paint. The packaging from some pins that I had bought. Some more lists that I have, just little doodles. This is a spread from when we were back in November and we were on Thanksgiving break, and this was just a picture of us at a restaurant. We had gone to another town, and this was us eating at this brewery. And then this is a poem, and I had written it on little sticky notes, like the little strips. Book page, which I thought kind of went with that. This was an article that Bill Nye had done, and it was in an insert in the newspaper, and it just resonated with me. And so I wanted it. It was so important. I wanted it in my journal. So I just taped it in. I put it on a piece of paper. I taped it in, and then I just went through and I annotated everything in his article that just made me think. And then to make it fun, I just kind of put some strawberry shortcake ribbon here. Some more writing and lists. This is some stuff I needed to get. More lists. Book page. Picture of some donuts. I mean, how can you open up to this page and that not make you happy? So yeah, I couldn't get enough of those donuts. And so this was in a magazine. I just pulled it out and stuck it in here. Some drawings and doodles. A little note from my daughter, and then just some journaling about my son, and lots of writing on this, so I must have had a lot to say, and then I just covered over it. This is one of my favorite quotes, and it's not by anyone famous, I don't think, but this is the show Sherlock Holmes. It has Johnny Lee Miller and Lucy Liu, and I've watched it for years. It's a great show, but in this show, Johnny Lee Miller's character is an addict, and he made this quote one time about sobriety, and it just stuck with me. And it's sad, but it's true, and I just felt like it needed to have a place in my journal. And so this is just very, very sparse, just some different drawings. And again, this is a sticker from Trader Joe's. And then this is the last page. It's just got a lot of stickers on it. Things that I like to watch on TV. This is a pocket back here. And here's some more pictures from the Breakfast Club and some notes from some friends. Just tucked them in this pocket here. And then there's the back of it. So that's the journal. And I hope it gave you some inspiration and at least gave you something to think about. So here's where I'm going with this. And here is my announcement that I want to make. I am resurrecting my series, Finding Your Style. So if you're not familiar with this, this was about 2 or 3 years ago. I did a 6 or 7, I can't remember. I thought it was 7 parts. 7-part series. It's on YouTube. It's called Finding Your Style. And it was just me going through my journey of how I began doing this type of journaling. And all of my struggles and all of the things that I learned. And I will tell you that I am at the point now where I can honestly say I am an artist, and I do not feel bad about saying that at all. But I did when I first started. I always felt like I was a pretender. And some of you guys have told me that in your comments that you feel that same way. So I think the last segment I did was on now you need to go and practice, and I feel like you've had a couple of years to practice, so it's time to pick back up where we left off. How can we take that practice and now turn it into proof that you are an artist? Because you are an artist, you just don't know it yet. And so my goal for this resurrection of Finding Your Style is that by the time we get to the end of this second part of the series, you will be able to comfortably and confidently call yourself an artist. I want to address some of the things that while you're doing all this practice, what are some things that you have going on in your head? What are some struggles that you're having right now? And so I'm going to ask if you guys would list some of those things that you would like to see me address. List these in the comments below. Maybe you are feeling a lot of success. What are some tips or tricks that you have noticed throughout this journey that you feel might be able to help other people? Now, I've already got a couple of videos ready to go. I've already shot a few of them, and I'm just waiting to begin the series before I publish them. But here's the thing. I'm probably not going to launch this series until later this summer. And the reason is because I want to finish out Days of Summer, and I want to make sure that I have this series ready to go, and that it's going to be exactly as professional as I can make it. I really want to take my time on making this the second part to this series. So look for it to launch later this summer. Give me your comments, give me your questions, give me your hints, tips, or tricks, things that you would like to see me address in this series. And yeah, I'm just super excited. I cannot wait because there's so many things that I want to talk to you guys about, and so many things that I left out of the first series that were an important part of my journey. I'm going to actually show you guys, we're going to put together, we're going to make some stuff. Like there's going to be some exercises and stuff in these videos that I have coming up, and we're going to actually make a final product together in this series. I've kind of got it in my brain how I want this to work out and what I want you guys to walk away with. So yeah, I'm super excited. Okay, kiddos, I think this has taken a long time, so I hope you got some inspiration from this. I hope you are as excited as I am about Finding Your Style Part 2, and I hope you guys leave me some comments and some suggestions and some questions and some hints, tips, or tricks that you have. I hope you are healthy, I hope you are happy, and I hope you do something creative today. Bye.